And joining me right now here on the Mark Moses Show is my good friend Chris Graham with the Gus Free Press. We got to talk some basketball, some of my stories from New Orleans. Maybe we'll talk some wrestling as well. Chris, how you doing today?
Good, and I can't wait to hear these stories from New Orleans.
All right, I know what the question is. I know what you want to ask me. What wrestlers did I see in New Orleans? Is that the question?
That'd be a good first one. What a good place to start.
All right. So there was a moment there at my table on Radio Row in New Orleans when Tony Khan is standing by me with, what do they call the Hurt Business? Is that their name? Yeah. The faction? Yeah. So I've met MVP before when he was like randomly in MLW in Orlando. Who's the other? Is it Sheldon Benjamin? Is that the other guy?
Sheldon Benjamin and, of course, Bobby Lashley.
All right. So I go up to Bobby Lashley, and I said, hey, Bobby, big fan. It's great meeting you. Can I get a photo? Because I'm a fanboy. He's like, yeah, no problem. I shook his hand. You know, like in Looney Tunes when I'm trying not to laugh. He could have taken me just by my hand and thrown me 70 yards in the air like a football. That's how big he is, buddy. Do you know this?
He is, and he's like almost 50 years old, and he looks like he's 25, could play defensive end in the NFL and would be a terror. He is the biggest man I've ever seen in person. So in the sense of just thick and muscle on top of muscle, and I don't doubt he could throw you 70 yards with a handshake.
Yeah, with a handshake. He was in a full suit. Yeah, if you had a genie show up with 3 wishes, like, okay, make me a superhero, I think they turn you into Bobby Lashley's body. Is that fair to say?
You're not buying those suits off the rack if you're Bobby Lashley.
You're absolutely... Couldn't have been a nicer guy, Bobby Lashley. When I saw Tony Khan, my first thought was, can you and your dad fix the Jaguars? Is that wrong if I feel that way? Please.
No, you're a lot of actually AEW fans even who've decided to become Jacksonville Jaguars fans for that reason agree. You get Trevor Lawrence in the draft a few years ago. You get, that drafts Peyton Manning, maybe this generation supposed to become Peyton Manning, and you still can't win, and you're on coach like number 3 or 4 since then. Yeah, fix the Jaguars first and let somebody else take over the wrestling.
Fix the Jaguars, please. So I saw them. They were really nice guys. And then Seth Rollins walks by me. Seth Rollins, that's right. Burn it down. And the whole time I'm thinking, hey, he's like me. He's a disgruntled Chicago Bears fan. Didn't even care about his wrestling. The man has headlined WrestleMania, and all I can think about is how he's a disgruntled Bears fan. Is that fair?
That's fair. I mean, he's the author of, to me, the single greatest moment in WrestleMania history when he cashed in and eventually won what became a triple threat match with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. But, I mean, if you're – and I guess CM Punk would be in that same category. I mean, another guy, Chicago guy, who has been at the top of the wrestling business who, at the end of the day, they just want the Bears to finally get it right.
I think you need to come with me next year to Radio Row. Let's do it. Come on.
That sounds like a plan, man.
I think you need it. And I think your game plan would be just to talk to wrestlers on Radio Row, not even interview anyone who covers football. Would this be correct?
No, the football part of it's boring. I mean, I want to talk to the wrestlers and the skateboarders and the celebrities who don't know anything about football. That's where the fun is, man. That's where the business is.
Yeah, I like this. Have you ever done any type of Radio Row for the Final Four, anything like that before?
I've done a Radio Row for an ACC football kickoff a couple of times, and then once for basketball. So it's been a while since I did that, but we're of course at ACC football kickoffs you don't get celebs. You get like at football you get bowl chairmen who are wearing like those really colorful suit jackets and that kind of thing, and they're just can't wait to tell you about how great the Peach Bowl is and that kind of thing, but not as cool as Super Bowl Road.
I'm sorry I had to rub it in with all the wrestlers I saw. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right. You know what's funny? There was a moment there where I was like, oh man, that's a famous wrestler. I wish I could talk to wrestlers. And I was like, wait a minute, Mark, you do talk to wrestlers all the time there in Central Florida. Okay, that's rubbing it into you, Chris. Take that. That's right. But I owe you something, and I really mean this. You were supposed to come with me to NXT, but then a hurricane hit? Is that what happened?
A hurricane hit as I was ready to fly down. I was at the airport. I think I was turning into the last stoplight before I turned into the airport when I got word that my flight was canceled because of that hurricane. I thought maybe the plane could fly around the hurricane. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's no big deal. It'll just fly around the thing. No, that was a pretty big hurricane. I don't remember which one it was, but yeah, you're not going to fly through a hurricane.
Yeah, see, this is the problem living here in Florida. We can't even keep up with which hurricane it was messing with us. Because my brother was supposed to come here in October, and he couldn't go because of a hurricane. It never ends. So what I'm trying to say is, with Chris Graham, the man, I have to make it up to you. I think in the next couple of months, you need to fly down here, and I need to make it up to you with NXT Wrestling.
I got to shovel some snow first. You know, you guys have the problem, and I will trade snow for a hurricane or tornadoes any day, but this phone call is giving me a break. We had 8 inches of snow here yesterday. I've got to get back out and finish because tonight, we're getting an ice storm up here in Virginia. And then, let's see, today's Wednesday. Yesterday was Tuesday. I think it's Friday. We get another snowstorm. So, that's, that groundhog, that Punxsutawney Phil, I've got some words for him when he said 6 more weeks of winter because it's like coming back with a vengeance.
All right, let's talk some wrestling because now the Super Bowl's over with. What do you think of potential main events for WrestleMania? Because what did we learn? Gunther's going to take on Jey Uso one night in the main event. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I watched the Rumble. I wasn't a fan of the Jey Uso win. It was clear he was going to go in that direction, I guess, and go after Gunther. That leaves open, which is good news. I was afraid that they would be matching Jey Uso with Cody Rhodes, and that would be an underwhelming night 2 main event. It still leaves open what happens with Cody Rhodes. So I don't know that we know where that's going to go, and that's a good thing. I mean, logically, Roman Reigns somehow. I don't think The Rock has gotten back involved to a degree that maybe we thought was possible not this time last year, but last spring after WrestleMania. So yeah, it still leaves us some intrigue as to what's next for Cody Rhodes.
I want our listeners to know this. Chris Graham loves wrestling. He will talk about it with anyone who asks him the questions. There was no energy in your answer right there. Are you completely bored with the product? What is it exactly?
I'm bored with both products right now. AEW, which is my number one, and then WWE. Yeah, it's, wrestling goes through boom and bust cycles just like the stock market does. And right now, I think we're both like last year going into WrestleMania, there was excitement around, Cody and the chase. And that's natural. When you've got a 3.5 year champion in Roman Reigns, is someone will finally dethrone him? Will Cody finish the story as we were talking about this time last year? I don't know. The chase is the thing. There's no chase this year in WWE. Cody's been the champ for almost a year, and then in AEW, it's there's a mess all around there. So yeah, it's a little bit of a bust cycle right now, and I'm keeping up with it, but it's not something I tune in. I'm not watching like every match closely or anything else. Just kind of tuning in to make sure I don't miss anything.
Are you watching Raw that it's now on Netflix? I am not. I don't have Netflix. I'm not spending money on Netflix for Raw. My thing is, you could just go on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, and all the highlights are on there 5 minutes later. So I'm not missing anything. So what is your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not there either, and it's. I've got Netflix. I don't know. I say I don't know why. I've got it. I guess it was actually the Royal Rumble was on Peacock. Now that I think about it, so no, I actually haven't turned WWE on Netflix yet. It's just one of those things. I do still have cable, so it's like now I got to go over to Netflix, and if if I get bored with Raw, like before when it was on cable, if there was a match that you didn't like, you could change the channel and go to a basketball game or college or NBA game or whatever, and then tune back later. When it's on Netflix, you're committed to Netflix, and so I don't know. I wonder how that's impacting things one way or the other. For me, it's impacting it because I'm just not watching it.
I like the Rumble. I like watching it. I'm all locked in. I liked it started early at like 6 p.m. Eastern, and it started right away with the women's. I know Charlotte Flair won. I like Roxanne Perez, who I know. She's been on my show like 3 times. She almost won it. I like the Rumble that there's a men's and women's version of it. Do you like the format of that pay-per-view?
Okay, I like that there's a men's and women's part of it. Let me tell you this, though. Let me throw this out for food for thought. It's not, the Rumble isn't, to me, what it was a few years ago when you could have surprises from other companies, and I'm not counting TNA as another company because the TNA people who come in, they're going to be there for just a cameo appearance and that kind of thing. But like when, for example, I'm thinking a few years ago when AJ Styles made his surprise first appearance. That's been several years now. Didn't know that was going to happen. I read the dirt sheets, and that still caught me by surprise. And I'm like, well, I popped, when AJ Styles came out. And, it's just not the same now. The companies, both the 2 big companies, lock their guys and gals into long-term deals. And so there's really not surprises. There were even some free agents that I know are now making their way back into the WWE fold. I think Ricky Starks debuted on NXT last night. We know Malachi Black now will be back to being Aleister Black. But because of contract situations, they weren't able to be on the Rumble. So, that was always the fun part of the Rumble for me was, you had to watch the whole match to see who was going to be the surprise. Now it's kind of like, all right, I want to see who the first 2 guys or gals are. And then, I'll go do some, housework, maybe make dinner, feed the dogs, because I know it's not going to be over for an hour, and then I'll just tune back in when it's finishing. The lack of surprise is kind of taking the fun away from me.
All right. Do I have to entertain you? You sound very down today. Is it the snow? Is that what it is? Is it depressing you? What is it, Chris?
It's my basketball team that I cover, Virginia. This is the first down year we've had in about 15 years. From a national championship a few years ago, even 2 years ago, an ACC regular season championship. My guys are 12-12, and we're getting ready to hire a new coach because we have an interim coach. And so I've been writing about bad basketball for 3 months. That's maybe what you're hearing.
All right, you're just spoiled then. 15 straight years, and now you're complaining. Come on, man. You could do better than this. Come on.
The writer in me gets to write about a coaching search, which is the first one I've been writing about in 15 years. There's some fun as a writer in that, but I still got to cover this team, and they're just not very good. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to football season. The football team I cover is not very good, so I'm used to that. I can have fun with that, but no, basketball is supposed to make up for football season, and so I just had a bad football season. Now I'm having a bad basketball season. Wrestling is boring me, man. I need something to lighten the mood.
Yeah, you need something to keep it going. All right, let's go over this then. In basketball for college, I brought this up yesterday. We're with Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. I don't think being the number 1 team in the country even matters anymore. Like it used to. It used to be a big deal. Does anyone care now who's the number 1 team in basketball?
So getting back to that team that I cover that's having a bad year, Virginia for several years was one of those teams that would ascend to number 1 at some point during the season, and you'd write a story about, hey, we're number 1, and that meant something. I agree with you. I don't know that that matters, which is maybe it's a good thing for college basketball that that's the case because as fans, I'm sure that there are still fan bases out there. If Florida gets to be number 1, Auburn's number 1 right now. If Florida ascends to that top ranking for the first time in a while, that'll be exciting for the fan base. But yeah, we know that it's all about, getting in position for March. And That's where the focus needs to be. And so, like, if you're a UConn fan right now, you're a fan of a two-time defending national champion. Right now, you're out of the top 25. You're still thinking, hey, we're UConn.
Yeah.
We're going to get this figured out. So, but I agree with you. The top 25. Now, let me couch that with I've not been following the top 25 this year because, again, sad Chris, the team that I cover has not been anywhere near there. And also the conference I cover only has two teams in the top 25 now, and that's just because Clemson jumped into the top 25 this week. We've had Duke most of the season as the only team ranked. So ACC fans are like, oh, yeah, top 25, who cares? It's no big deal.
I like the idea there's a character you just created, Sad Chris. I like this. I like this. It's a new show this fall on the CW. That's what it sounds like. Sad Chris. It's funny you bring up the Gators. So they win last night against another ranked team, Mississippi State. They're 21-3. The fact that they've beaten two number one teams this year, I think that just says everything about college basketball. They've beaten two number ones handily. What? What does that even mean? I just.
Well, then
go on.
They beat the one by 30 and then lost to Tennessee by 30. I mean, roughly in each direction. It's just. I saw that Florida team, of course, because Virginia played Florida in the ACC SEC challenge, if we can call it a challenge, considering that the SEC won all but like one game in that this year. Florida scored 87 points on Virginia. Virginia plays the slowest pace in college basketball, so that game had like 60 possessions, and they scored 87 points. That's a pretty good team. I mean, it was a similar team as I saw last year. Virginia actually beat that Florida team last year with a lot of the same guys. I gotta give credit to the coach there, Todd Golden, for getting that team. They're a year older. They're a year much, much better. They can win games by holding opponents in the 40s. They can win games by scoring almost 1.5 points per possession in a game against, as they did against Virginia. So that's the kind of team that can do damage in March. You can't just win one style of game in March. You have to be able to win lots of different ways. And that's the kind of thing I look for when I look for a team that can win in March and April.
Okay. Let's make a rule with Chris Graham. We will have the conference tournaments early next month. I am not putting any love into that. Like, oh, man, like look we've had in years past. Alabama won the conference tournament in Nashville. No, don't take any of it seriously because this thing is wide open. Are you on board with me?
I just think about this. I use this stat all the time. The last three ACC teams who have won national championships, which it was Virginia in 2019, Carolina 2017, Duke 2015. None of those three won the conference tournament. They all lost in the semifinals of the conference tournament. So it's almost like if you're a good team, and you want to go far, don't play all 3 or 4 games, whatever you got to play to win your conference tournament. Kind of play good, but lose early so you can keep your legs, get ready for the next thing, which is the one that matters, needing to win 6 games to win the NCAA tournament. I'm with you there.
Okay. I can't believe I have to ask this question. Is UConn in the Big East again? I'm confused.
Yeah, they're the Big East, yeah.
Are you sure? All right, so they were in the original Big East. Then they went to the American Conference. And then went back to the Big East, right?
Yeah, football. That was football that, for whatever reason, they moved to the American football for a while. But now the football team, which is awful, is independent, which is not good, but it's better. It's better than dragging their basketball program into a lesser conference, so to speak. So yeah, they've been back in the Big East the last. I can't think exactly how long, the last few years.
Okay, wait. Did they get rid of football, or no? Is that UAB? Why?
UAB got rid of it, but got it back.
Yeah.
UAB was only without it for a year or two, maybe 2 years, I want to say. Trent Dilfer's the coach there now and is not doing well.
Yeah, that's right. All right, in hindsight, if you're Coach Hurley, should he have taken the Lakers job and have left UConn?
Yeah. I mean, and Coach K had the same choice 20 years ago-ish, 2003, 2004, something like that. Hurley, I think, yes, Hurley used it for leverage to get more money out of UConn as if that's necessary. But in college basketball now, you're re-recruiting a new roster at least every 2 years, if not every year. The stability that the NBA, you can sign guys for longer term deals. And of course, right now he'd be coaching LeBron and Luka. So, give me that choice or having to recruit a bunch of kids every year. I would take that, but I don't know what else he can do in college. He's won the 2 national. It's kind of like Billy Donovan, all those years ago at Florida. You win your 2 championships, go to the NBA.
Remember, he did accept the Orlando Magic job. Then he had the press conference. Then he's like, "Nah, I'm going back to Florida." That's what happened. Then years later, he goes to Oklahoma City. That's what happened. All right.
Yeah. And he's been, unfortunately, bouncing around now, Chicago, and not quite doing as well as certainly his college pedigree would have suggested. Yeah.
No, he's not. It's not good. All right, let's end with this. We'll go back to wrestling. All right, because, why not? My favorite part of wrestling right now is the Mariah May versus Toni Storm feud. And I think they botched it where Toni Storm now knows she's Toni Storm and she doesn't have amnesia. You could have drawn that out for 6 months. I'm disappointed in AEW. What is your thoughts?
I mean, we knew. I think we knew it was going here eventually. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen it play out longer, at least until the match in Australia this weekend. I mean, she could have, done it then. But I mean, still, I did like the pop that Toni Storm got after, she went out as a fan and met Mariah May, and Mariah May beat her down. And then, all she had to do was say like 4 words in that timeless Toni Storm voice, and that crowd, they were throwing babies in the air, as Jim Cornette would say. That shows how much that character is over. It shows how Toni Storm, is one of the top people in the business, not just women, not just in AEW, in the business. She can work in the ring. She's a fine wrestler, technical wrestler wise. And what a performer she is. From a few months of being this rookie who is amnesiac and played that part so well, and this timeless Toni Storm character is so good. And Mariah May, I mean, I listened to your interview you did with her a few weeks ago. She's a really good heel. I don't know how they can possibly extend this feud out. They've been playing this for like a year and a half now, but those are 2 of the top people in the business, and they're working together. And so AEW fans better enjoy this.
Okay, Uncle Mark has a couple of comments after what you said. And we're here with Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. I just talked to Mariah May on the phone for 25 minutes. She was incredible to talk to. Like, amazing. I might have been falling in love with her off a phone call, not even knowing what she looks like. I will be on record as saying this. She is amazing, right? The other thing is, Toni Storm is so awesome. She dressed up as Mariah May, and the internet went insane. And you know what I'm talking about, correct?
I do. When the Collision this past Saturday night, and she looked like and wrestled like Mariah May.
Toni Storm is awesome. That feud is the best storyline in professional wrestling right now. I'm not kidding. It's the best.
I just want to see it for another year. I want to see those 2 figure out a way to do this forever.
Yes. And then what you would do is they finish that storyline, then they team up to take on bigger jabronis. That's like a bunch of brunettes. I know, this is all my fantasy after a while. That's what it is.
Well, and maybe Mariah May can get amnesia. Who knows?
Oh,
yeah. Have them team for a while. People only team to eventually turn on each other.
Yeah.
And then Mariah May gets beat down, forgets who she is, and then we play that out for another year. This time next year, we're like, I can't believe they're still doing this.
I think my favorite part is Mariah May, where she goes to Champaign, Illinois, comes out and says, "This is a." No, try not to laugh. Did you see this video?
I did see this one,
She comes out, so it's Champaign-Urbana. That's where the University of Illinois is. So she comes out, and she says, like, this is a dump. This is terrible. It shouldn't have the name Champaign. And you could tell she enjoyed every moment of that. Being a heel, Chris, is that more fun to be in wrestling?
And that's also Tony Khan's hometown, by the way, too. Oh, yes, by far. Everybody that I've worked with, back when I worked inside the business there for a brief time, oh, gosh, yeah. Everybody who's a babyface wants to be a heel. Everybody who's a heel does not want to have to go back to being a babyface.
No.
You get to say what you want when you want it. And, it's one thing to get the crowd cheering you. That's easy to do.
Yeah.
But to get the crowd to hate. I remember Tommaso Ciampa coming out in NXT back when he was feuding with Johnny Gargano. They didn't even have to play music. As soon as he would walk out on the entrance ramp, he would get all these lusty boos from thousands of people. That had to be such a great feeling for him.
When I was at Radio Row last week, I know I sound like a jerk. I was like, yeah, I've talked to Mariah May. Guys, just get quiet. Oh, my. What do you mean? Oh, yeah, I talked to her. What? And they just get quiet. But I get to talk to this guy as well. His name's Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. Thank you so much for coming on. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mark.